I think it's interesting to kind of hear this as part of like the Shedeur discourse, because if anyone in the Cleveland Browns had said this at any point, maybe some of the Shahive would be more patient with the lack of opportunity Shedeur's gotten to this point.
I see. Now, I took it a little bit of a different way. I looked at Joe Thomas getting the truth, because not everyone's going to get the truth out of this Browns organization, but Joe will. Joe is a Hall of Famer. Joe has commanded a lot of respect around the Browns, and so I would imagine he would get in on a lot of the conversations that not everyone has. And if he's telling us that the convo outside of Berea and the convo in Berea aren't matching up, and they actually do see them in a much more positive light, then I think it's a really good development for Shedeur Sanders fans.
Okay, the only thing I would say is, to this point, the only opportunity Shedeur have gotten, that like the uppage in those have been because of injuries. Like he was throwing to Tim in accounting, and then Kenny Pickett hurts his hamstring, and all of a sudden he's getting a smattering of touches here or there.
All right, but this moves fast. It can move fast.
I mean, maybe now on, because Pickett, or because Gabriel's also hurt. But this has been.
We just started seeing Joe at camp in the past. When did we have our last camp day? Was it Monday?
Time's a flat circle.
I think it was Monday. Monday was and it was the first time we saw Joe out there. And Joe's obviously been getting ready. He talks to people, obviously. But when we talked to Joe just a few weeks back, he's like, I haven't been out there. I haven't seen. I don't have a good handle on this. Now he's been out there, and I think it came out in a good time because they've been able to evaluate Shedeur in a heavier way.
Comparatively, though, compared to like when Kenny Pickett got hurt, all of a sudden Dillon wasn't just getting second-team reps, he was getting some first-team reps as well.
I'm not arguing in the sense that I really think they favor Dillon over Shedeur.
I think it was more to your point about it's happening quickly. I think that remains to be seen. I think, listen, I think it's huge that Joe's saying this. If anybody in this town carries weight when they say Shedeur's looking good and can reach the Browns fans who their only rebuttal is he's a fifth-round pick, right? As if Dillon's more than a third-round pick, or Kenny's worth more than a fifth-round pick, which is what you got for him, or Joe wasn't a street free agent for anyone to sign, and Cleveland's the only opportunity start that he got. Like, this would be the thing that would reach those fans who think all the shenoise, as it were, is for the birds.
And when Joe speaks, people should pay attention. And even right now, the way he's calling it is Flacco and Sanders. And so, like, if as a Shedeur Sanders supporter, that's good news.
So this is one half of this. We've talked about the Shedeur side of things impressing the Browns. Well, Joe Thomas was also on the herd with Colin Cowherd. And I think it's interesting. You hear the Shedeur part of this. You also hear an interesting commentary on Dillon Gabriel as well.
That's really been one of the biggest concerns, I think, with Shedeur, just like any young rookie quarterback thus far, because, hey, it's different when all of a sudden you're running plays under center. You got a new snap count. You got a bunch of different things to think about with shifts and formations, and all the other knuckleheads on the outside who are also young trying to figure things out. So you got a lot going on. And, of course, once the ball snapped, you got some things you got to do too as well. So there's a lot going on when you're a young quarterback, and there has been quite a few procedural penalties, and that's the first thing that you want to see cleaned up in that first game.
All right, so can someone explain to me what's happening?
That was a clip from this morning. That wasn't the Colin Cowherd clip.
All right, so we are going to get the Colin Cowherd clip here. I mean, I can't believe Mac is doing this. Mac isn't here today.
Mac,
it's Jack, so we're going to jam Jax up here. Actually, it's probably just a simple thing here. So we're going to get to Joe on this. But there's really just so few former Browns who are plugged in with the team the way Joe is, who also have that Hall of Fame, or even if it's not Hall of Fame, have that resume that you can't ignore. I mean, hell, we saw the Joe working with DeJuan Jones at the Panthers practice the other day.
I think he would get so I really think that I was going to say, it was still on the up and up, but I didn't want it to come out the way it did. So I believe, though, that he would get shot straight. In these type of discussions, when it comes to Stefanski, I think Stefanski plays games with media members. I think Andrew Berry plays games with media members. I think they love the idea that they can say one thing and then different people come in town and they run with it and they can say something else 2 weeks later. I think they laugh at this stuff. I really do. But they won't do that with Joe. There's a level of respect for the Hall of Famer and him being around that I think they just shoot him straight. And I feel like in this instance, the way Joe is talking, now his eyes are coming into play here as well, too, though. I think that's important also.
And that's what comes in line here with this piece of sound from Joe on the herd with Colin Cowherd yesterday, we promise.
I think Shedeur's ahead of Dylan right now. Dylan clearly has some things that he does really well. Obviously, his mobility, his ability to get outside the pocket, make plays when he can see because he doesn't have to worry about throwing from in the pocket. But the challenge of being a short quarterback, especially in the NFL and NFL passing offenses, is that you have to throw to a spot a lot of times. You have to build that trust and that understanding of looking at the structure of the defense, knowing where the ball needs to go, and then having some blind faith that when you throw it to that spot, your guy's going to be there. And that takes a lot more time than if you are being able to see the guy actually coming open. You're able to see the windows. And so far, Shedeur has, I think, in my opinion, outplayed Dylan at this point in training camp because Dylan's had some struggles with accuracy. And Shedeur, although it's not been great with the procedural side of things when he's up there under the center and he's trying to make calls, when the ball gets snapped, he's been pretty accurate and pretty impressive.
It's really important to hear Joe say Shedeur has outplayed Dylan no matter the amount of reps each guy gets. The reason why it's important is you and I get lumped in as both being part of the Shahive. I'm Switzerland with all these guys. Like the player I'm most biased to is Joe Flacco because he's a outstanding dude, and we know that from 2023, and that arm talent doesn't lie. But even then, like I don't have faith that any one of these guys is going to magically cure the Browns' position this year. But when it comes to Pickett, Shedeur, and Dylan Gabriel, I do not see a difference. I do not care where they were drafted. I do not care about anything other than how are you practicing, how do you look, and where is your physical talent. And there's a segment of Browns fans, just because they don't like Shedeur, we'll just say, well, Dylan was drafted first and Shedeur's just a 5th-round pick. It's like, guys, I can't tell you enough. You can't tell me enough. Every show on the station can't tell you enough. I've watched Dylan in practice. It not just it doesn't look good. It doesn't look anywhere close to competent.
People think we're behind him.
And yet they continue to give him the opportunities to push for the starting job.
It's important you play clips like that with Joe because people respect Joe's opinion and they know that the football acumen accompanies that. But it just helps us in trying to signify to people that haven't been at camp and haven't watched this that Dylan Gabriel doesn't look good. And Shedeur does look better than Dylan Gabriel. It doesn't matter what round they were taken. You have to constantly reassess this. And that's what I imagine the Browns are doing. They're constantly reassessing how does this player look, what are they able to do, and what are they actually able to perform.
But the reason why this matters is with Dylan, they're still up until the hamstring injury. They were giving Dylan every opportunity to take Joe's job. Before the hamstring injury,
right.
I said, I think we have to prepare that they might just be giving Dylan the job because they think over 17 games, it'll make more of a difference than if maybe Joe Flacco starts week 1 and you're more competitive early. I don't know if the hamstring injury is going to take him out of that spot. What I do know is they've been giving him the more choice opportunities by a wide margin, and he's looked dramatically worse. That to me is more concerning than anything else you can say because I do think
the hamstring injury in many ways is almost saving him.
Yeah, well, and saving the Browns to some degree.
Because the Browns would have embarrassment if they had to all of a sudden shuffle around the deck because it looked like Shedeur was playing much better than him the way that Joe Thomas suggests.
Well, and it's just as simple as like for
makes you think, doesn't it?
Like, listen, the whole part that Joe and all the other vets that have talked about this off the record or guys who played in the NFL, the vets are going to want Joe Flacco. That is true to this extent. They want the guy that gives them the best chance to win. The other part of that, outside of Joe Flacco, is they want the guys who are playing the best football to get the most reps so that if they have to play, if it's not Joe, whoever plays is the guy that gives them the best chance to win. And I think that's another reason why when Joe says Shedeur's been better than Dylan, I am apolitical on these other 3 quarterbacks. I just want whoever actually sees the field to have a chance to do something interesting here, even if this is still going to be a 3-14
season.
season.
Joe spotted out something else that has been painfully obvious to everyone that has been watching Dylan Gabriel, but for some reason it's just wrong to talk about. It's been a part of conversation over the past 24 hours is the short stature of Dylan Gabriel. And the idea, and like Joe touched on it right there in an interesting way. Like I saw Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy kind of rocked the boat a little bit. Brock Purdy, 6'1", says he can't see on 40% of the throws that he makes. Mm-hmm. They're just blind throws for him. And like Joe is bringing up the idea that Dylan Gabriel often is not going to be able to see what he's actually looking at and throwing at.
And by the way, Brock is 6'1". That means he's 5'11".
Yeah, and he looks like he's 5'11".
Dylan is listed, I think, at 5'11", and that means he's probably close to 5'9". No offense, Short Kings. Did you see my TikTok, the video, the screen grab of the picture that they have for Dylan on ESPN?
Yeah.
Where there's like,
he looks like a munchkin.
They shoot him, and there's like there's
like
a foot of air.
It's like a scrunched up. Yeah, it's weird.
There's a foot of air ahead of him. I'm like, are you anti Short Kings? Because you're really not helping Dylan Gabriel in this. And I'm a Dylan detractor, not a fan. That's too cold blooded even for me. Joe Thomas says, "Hey, Shedeur's been better than Dylan Gabriel. I think Shedeur's impressed people in the Cleveland sphere." I believe that Joe is hearing that. It would be nice to see the Browns then maybe follow through with how maybe they handle Shedeur starting maybe tomorrow or maybe even into the next couple practices and see how much reps he actually gets.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe tomorrow will tell us a lot in general just from that perspective. But I find it interesting that people close to Berea and around Berea, you're starting to hear more and more of that type of conversation. We had not heard it the way that Joe was spitting it out, and so it's different. And I think how we talked about Dylan Gabriel is very interesting on a million different levels. But like the ball, at some point, you can't lie to us.
Yeah, it's weird.
Ball don't lie. And in this instance, we just too many people like us were out there and saw with our own eyes what was going on.
Like there's a part of me that thinks if Kenny Pickett is auditioning for other teams, how much of that thought should be then pushed onto the other prospects? Because I'll be honest with you, I don't think there's anything that Dylan Gabriel can do that'll get him cut or traded by the Cleveland Browns. I mean, with respect to the Mike Silver report that multiple teams called and were interested in him after the Browns took Shedeur, okay, not necessarily. And I don't think that's maybe the way it was portrayed, but that's fine. I'm not doubting Mike. I'm doubting whoever fed him that information and the spin on that. But I do think, like, there's a part of me that thinks, all right, is even Joe saying this? Is this part of some spin to try and see if somebody would trade for Shedeur before the regular season? There's a part of me that thinks he's auditioning not just for the Browns, but the rest of the NFL.
This didn't happen on like a, tiny 500-watt radio station or something like that in a random place.
Like Wisconsin, like where Joe's from.
Right. Like this was, he didn't do a show at his farm or something like that. Like this was on the herd. This was on his national radio. And this is what he wanted to spit out to everybody. And I do think it matters. I think it's very important that Joe Thomas of all people was speaking this way.
Do you think Shedeur is just auditioning for the Browns, or do you think he's also auditioning for the
rest of the league? I keep bringing up the Rams, and I'm going to keep bringing them up until Matthew Stafford either decides he's 100% injured or they get somebody that isn't Jimmy Garoppolo as the main backup there, because it just makes a lot of sense. Like there's a world out there that exists. And I don't think this is how this is going to go down, but there's a world that exists where Shedeur Sanders is awesome on Friday, and enough of these teams do actually watch the preseason games, and they think to themselves, okay, now here's a 4th-round pick, now here's a 3rd-round pick. Let's see if we can get Shedeur in here.
If we believe that Andrew Berry drafted Shedeur Sanders as a value grab, then what you're saying would make sense. Meaning, like, if somebody came along and offered a 2nd-round pick for Dylan Gabriel, I don't think the Browns are biting. If somebody came along, you spent a 5th-rounder basically on Kenny Pickett. If somebody offered a 4th-rounder for Kenny Pickett, you can spin value. I think the same thing with Shedeur. Somebody came in and said,
is he an easy
4th-rounder?
Is he an easy flip? It's like they bought him like those houses you watch on HGTV, and they're like, we're gonna put a little bit of money into this and a little time into this, and then we'll turn this around into something nice.
It's all about open concept. If you could just have enough open concept, they're like, this is a completely different house.
Is that the buzzword? Open concept.
You also replaced every part of the house and basically built a new house.
Basically built a new house, and that'll be the trick that the Browns are trying to spin off here. He'll have one preseason game. He'll look awesome, and then it would be, they really did a number on that Shedeur Sanders. Look at them.
This is what I think ultimately is interesting, because some of the Browns' attempts to entice people into trading for their backups have been a little embarrassing. Like the Jameis Winston DTR jostling that happened last year, where they're like, they could, if somebody came along and offered them something for Jameis Winston, it's like, no, you just got him for free in free agency. He's a backup. No one's going to do that.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And even this year, I think Shedeur is more plausible that somebody might offer you something for than Kenny Pickett, because if I want a veteran, well, Kirk Cousins is a better veteran than Kenny Pickett is. It might cost you a little bit more, either financially or otherwise, but I'd rather if I need a bail me out because my quarterback got hurt quarterback, it's Kirk Cousins. It's not going to be Kenny Pickett. Whereas at least with Shedeur, the idea here is, well, he's a young quarterback. He was just drafted, and you have him controllable for the next 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why the Rams keep popping up in my brain over and over again. But I think Friday matters in a lot of different areas. I think it matters for Shedeur looking good because this might just be. I don't know. Do you think Shedeur at the end of the day wants out? Like we talked to John Fanta at 4:00, and he all but promised us. And I love a John Fanta promise. He all but promised us that Shedeur Sanders will play this year. If you're Shedeur, if you get traded to another team, you get sent to another team, there's no guarantee you ever see the field.
Yeah, I just continue to come back to trading Shedeur before you give him a chance to, in meaningful situation on the field. Why would I give a rip if you got a 4th rounder for a guy you took in the middle of the 5th round? You know what I mean? Like, you still have a quarterback hole here, and one that, like, the odds are you're going to play at least 3 quarterbacks this year. You're not intending to, but if years you've gone into the season saying we're going to build all around Deshaun, and then you've ended up with 4 starting quarterbacks like 2023, this feels like a year where you're going to go in saying, well, this is Joe's job, knowing you're probably going to play at least 3 of them. There's a part of me that's like, if you trade Shedeur before he actually sees the regular season, the field for you, the worst thing in the world that could happen is he goes somewhere else, excels, and then all you got was a 4th round pick for a guy that, was better than Dylan Gabriel or might have even given you more of a chance down the line than Joe Flacco. Like, that is where I go, like, okay, why would you do that now?
Like, just to protect yourself in the off chance that he goes somewhere and then looks better than any quarterback we have on the roster?
Well, no, I mean, just the idea of, like, okay, like, you drafted him, that, like, the chances that any one of these 4 guys are going to pull the sword from the stone and make the Browns incredibly relevant long-term are pretty minuscule. I don't know why you would take one option off the board. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes sense.
Like, if they're all worth 3% of a chance of being something here, I don't know why you'd
I can argue,
take one out of it.
I can argue, and I have argued, that the highest percentage chance of a long-term option out of these quarterbacks is Shedeur, so you'd be getting rid of your highest chance. Again, I don't think it's going to happen, but I do think there's that part of me that, like, in the back of my brain, I keep thinking about the idea of, is he going to get 3 quarters into 4 quarters, and this all just be one big audition? And if he does look good to great, it'd be enough of a nudge for another team to call up and say, hey, we need one.
I don't think I've said this enough. I don't think Dylan Gabriel is going to be starter in the NFL. Like, under almost any circumstances. People want to make the Flutie comparison. Yeah, that's an anomaly. And Doug had to go play in Canada for about a decade before he came back. And, oh, by the way, his early run there in Buffalo, it took him a minute before he was actually good. He was juggling the job with Rob Johnson. Need I say more? But to kind of peel it back, I also don't want them trading Dylan Gabriel for a better pick either. You know what I mean? Like, no. This is about the young quarterbacks. The only guy I'm comfortable subtracting from that room is Kenny Pickett, because I've seen him play elsewhere, and he was unplayable.
I'd get rid of Gabriel. If you told me you'd recruit the 3rd rounder.
You're a shahonk.
I just, logically, if I could undo the disaster that was taking him in the 3rd round, I would do that.
Yeah, but that would require somebody saying, I'll give you a 2nd round pick for Dylan Gabriel,
even
which really feels
round.
like smelling salt.
Let's just break even here. If I just got the 3rd round back, I'm like, okay. They would never do it, because it'd be an admission there that is just not comfortable for Andrew Berry to be making, and just everyone laughing at him. But I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, all right, I'm good with that.
216-474-0092. Is Shedeur more auditioning for the Browns tomorrow or the rest of the league? I think until the Browns actually give him considerable chances in the, like, oh, he's now practicing with the 2s, like Joe mentioned earlier. This is how we played from the Morning Boys today. Until we actually see him get meaningful reps from the Browns, I'm going to assume he's more auditioning for the rest of the league. Until the coaching staff takes him more seriously, and it's okay that you don't to this point. But yeah, if you keep put him out there with the 3s and the 4s after Dylan and Kenny come back, I'm going to think, oh, okay, maybe you are just trying to value hunt.
There's so many angles we can take all of this stuff. It's amazing what has this kind of developed into with Shedeur Sanders.
A lot of ins, a lot of outs.
And for the people that are saying to themselves, man, all you guys do is talk about Shedeur. Well, first off, buckle up. The next 24 hours is going to be a Shedeur.
He's starting tomorrow.
It's going to be
It'd be weird if we didn't talk about it.
It's going to be a heavy Shedeur Sanders conversation for the next 24 hours or so. But realistically, if everyone comes back healthy next week, and if Shedeur doesn't look good, we won't be talking much Shedeur Sanders.